Today is January the 27th, 2021. Welcome to the award-winning personal computer radio show. I'm Hank Key and my colleague is Joe King. Do you know who has your personal data? Do you know how Facebook, Google, Amazon, and other big tech companies are using your personal data? Our website is pcradioshow.org. We are heard each Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on prn.fm, streaming on the Internet. Podcasts of the program is available on prn.fm on the Internet. You can leave us a message with your question or comment at hank@pcradioshow.org. Researchers find that the iPhone 12 can deactivate a defibrillator. Apple's newest iPhone have a circular array of magnets built into their backs, which allows them to snap to a MagSafe charging puck or compatible accessories such as a phone case. But defibrillators, some of which can also perform the function of a pacemaker, have a switch that can be deactivated with an external magnetic field. And when researchers from the Henry Ford Heart and Vascular Institute placed an iPhone 12 above the heart of a patient with an implanted Medtronic defibrillator, its operations were suspended every time. The iPhone 12 placed directly above a person's heart will interfere with a pacemaker's operations. Once the iPhone was brought close to the ICD over the left chest area, immediate suspension of ICD therapies were noted, which persisted for the duration of the test. The authors of the study in Heart Rhythm said that this was reproduced multiple times with different positions of the phone over the pocket. Apple acknowledges that this is a risk. iPhone contains magnets as well as components and radios that emit electromagnetic fields. These magnets and electromagnetic fields may interfere with medical devices, such as pacemaker and defibrillators. Though all iPhone 12 models contain more magnets than prior iPhone models, they're not expected to pose a greater risk of magnetic interference to medical devices than prior iPhone models. So the question remains as to whether the iPhone 12 is more likely to interfere with a defibrillator or pacemaker than other devices. The researchers pointed to studies that indicate smartphones without the kind of magnetic arrays found in the latest iPhone have a low risk of interfering with ICDs, but also noted that devices like fitness trackers have also found to deactivate a pacemaker. More research is needed, preferably testing a wider range of phones and more ICDs to determine if iPhone 12 is riskier to use for patients with pacemakers and defibrillators than other phones are. Pacemakers and defibrillators function differently, but both are implanted devices that can be affected by electronics with magnetic fields. Some defibrillators also function as pacemakers. Due to the way these implantable devices are designed, they can be easily activated or deactivated by ambient sources with magnetic fields, including a Fitbit or a vape pen, according to medical news service Medical Express. This doesn't have to be the case, but changing it will require medical device manufacturers to redesign their products. Until more research is done, if you have a pacemaker or defibrillator and also own an iPhone 12 or any device that includes magnets, consult your doctor to see what distance they recommend you keep the device away from your heart. At the very least, you might not want to wear your phone in a pocket directly over your chest. Three megabits per second uploads is still fast enough for U.S. homes. Ajit Pai says in his final FCC report, in one of his last acts as Federal Communications Commission chairman, Ajit Pai decided to stick with the FCC's 6-year-old broadband standard of 25 megabits per second download and 3 megabits per second upload speeds. The report concludes that the telecom industry is doing enough to extend broadband access to all Americans. When it comes to closing the digital divide in America, the latest quarterly report from Broadband Now highlights that there is a massive amount of work still to be done. As of December, 70% of Americans had access to low-price broadband plan defined as $60 a month or less. What about the other 30%? 30% of our population is almost 100 million. Affordable internet access is still one of the several major barriers to creating equitable broadband coverage, and one of the many things needed to close the digital divide. Only 6 states and the District of Columbia provide affordable access to 100 megabits per second internet speeds. That's Delaware, Hawaii, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, and Rhode Island. The state of broadband in America is a far cry from the rosy picture the FCC latest annual broadband report paints. The agency's report, released just January 19th, claims to show that the digital divide is rapidly closing. If you're looking at 25 megabits per second numbers as noted, sure. But that download speed has been the FCC minimum since 2015. What is needed to overcome the store to close the digital divide? Instead of using the same delivery platform of hardwired cabling, it may be connecting with low Earth orbit satellites. Elon Musk thinks and acts on a larger, more cosmic scale than we're accustomed to from entrepreneurs. He has imagined a disruptive fundamental rewiring of the internet with low Earth orbit satellites, providing internet service instead of the traditional method of laying down hard wires. So, how does Spacex Starlink could change the internet industry? The internet industry has had limited competition challenges in many parts of America. A long history of private infrastructure ownership has enabled the breakdown of a competitive marketplace in many regions, and in its place, a series of local monopolies and duopolies exist. This problem has been so persistent due to a fundamental fact of how we deliver connectivity. It's delivered on physical wires that, in many cases, were installed over a decade prior. These wires and those who own them, they play a key role in the problem. Enter now Spacex Starlink. The company has launched hundreds of satellites into low Earth orbit and plans to offer a new kind of broadband with them. The service is currently in a private testing phase, and if all goes as planned, it's likely to change internet delivery in the future. If successful, Starlink and low Earth orbit internet as a whole represents the first tangible alternative for broadband for millions of Americans. Competition will reduce prices for Americans, and average broadband pricing is around 15% lower for those living in an area with at least 3 providers to choose from, compared with those only with one, and it's 40% less in cities with the most competition. It's 40% less in cities with the most competition. More consumer choice also tends to increase download and upload speeds on average. Starlink could be a force for innovation across the industry in the United States. There are thousands of cities and towns in the United States that are caught up in a difficult ordeal. It's a deceptively simple one. In many areas, one provider will own the infrastructure for a cable connection, another will own the phone line, which usually takes the form of a DSL connection. These 2 providers exist in relative harmony together. Why? They both understand that new competitive threats are bound by the infrastructure that they themselves own. Moreover, they know that they aren't truly competing directly with each other in any real sense. The incentive to innovate on technology and price simply isn't there. SpaceX's upcoming low Earth orbit broadband solution still has much to prove from a technological standpoint, but if the service can be delivered as advertised, it will change the status quo that has existed for more than a decade in the broadband industry. This change could be a disruptive technology and broadband connection. The National Database of Broadband Plans and Pricing includes data on more than 2,000 American internet service providers. It is noted that the average pricing drops by nearly 40% in communities with 10 or more broadband providers to choose from, compared to those with only one choice. If Starlink, which is touted to have broadband-level performance, were to become available for consumers in many low-competition areas, it would represent the first meaningful change to the competitive landscape in years. What makes this service different? SpaceX could accomplish this without the need for underground or pole-based wiring to be run, which has been a significant hurdle to closing the long-standing digital divide in rural and semi-rural communities in virtually every state. Starlink's arrival could bring about a multitude of changes in closing the digital divide in a country where as many as 42 million Americans still don't have a single wired option to choose from. This change could be transformative for local and regional economies and could even play a wider role in shaping the work-from-home trajectory. For those who already have options in the area, the new service is likely to have an equally noteworthy effect. An entirely new broadband option can drive down the cost for internet connectivity. When scaled out to the national stage, consumer household savings could be as high as $300 million a month or about $3.7 billion per year. The new connection could possibly also spur on increased innovation from existing wire providers, improving their networks across the country in the process. Competition also influences internet speeds along with pricing. There is a relationship between having multiple providers to choose from and the median download speeds offered by those services. Speeds tend to trend upwards as more competition is added to the market, likely a natural function of the increased competition. If Starlink becomes a viable competitor in markets with only one or two options at current, the service could have the knock-on effect of spurring incumbent providers to improve their offering to keep their advantage. This would be a positive move for consumers everywhere. In the past 20 years, many strategies have been adopted to bring broadband to every single American. Unfortunately, none of them have worked. The free market approach has utterly failed to wire those in areas where it makes little economic sense to undertake the expensive infrastructure build-out. Community broadband is a promising and effective way for municipalities to take direct action by offering broadband services themselves over lines they own and install. It faces a difficult prospect, though. 22 states currently roadblock or outright ban these operations. Satellite internet is available to virtually every single American today. However, the satellites are positioned in high orbit, where latency and other data limitations can cause issues for some users. Cellular service requires a robust, wired backhaul to function. While it has a role to play in closing the wide divide, it will need to be deployed in tandem with wired infrastructure. So what's left when everyone is connected? Even if Starlink brings broadband to every single American home, the digital divide won't be closed. Though no pricing information has been announced for this service, it is inevitable that it will not be affordable for a segment of the population. How we respond to that issue will be the next evolution of America's digital divide. How often you just restart your system or turn off your system and boot it up again, or just turn it off? Some people turn off their machine when it's not in use. Some turn off the machine only at the end of the day. Then you have those who never turn off a machine unless there was a problem. What happens to the machine when you turn it off and turn it back on? This rebooting or restarting clears out background processes that might be slowing down your machine and allows you to start fresh. If you find that your desktop or laptop is running sluggishly, save all your work, close all programs and browser tags before shutting it down. You might be surprised how much faster your computer will run. This works a little differently on Macs and PCs. For Macs, restarting and shutting down, turning it back on are effectively the same thing. On the Windows PC, though, the fast startup with a restart prevents some operations from completely turning off to save some time, so you should turn this off to ensure your machine fully powers down. What's the difference? A warm boot is when you reload the operating system by performing a restart operation from the computer's main menu while it is still turned on. The warm boot does not turn the power off and back on, and it does not clear memory. Contrast this with a cold boot. A cold boot means turn off the power completely and then turning it back on. This process clears memory of all internal data and counters that keep track of operations, which are created by the operating system and applications when they run. Erratic program behavior is often fixed with a cold boot, also known as a hard boot. Whenever a program completes operation, the programmer should also release the application program from memory. Unfortunately, many don't because they want to convey how fast the program loads up when it's recalled. When you fail to free up memory resources, you cause the operating system to use virtual memory when memory is needed. This results in a slow operation. This might not fix all your problems, but if you're experiencing some compute issues and want to start with an easy solution, well, this is probably as easy as it gets. I'm not saying you need to power down and reboot each day, though it's not a bad idea, but going through the old turn it off and turn it back on process at the end of each day can actually save a lot of problems. Me, what I do? I shut down completely after I've done my backups. Have you done your backups yet? Presenting Benjamin Rockwell with his IT Pro series, Pragati, Incremental Improvements.
This is Benjamin Rockwell, and now it's time to get down to business. This is where I give you some benefit of my knowledge and experience of many years in the IT field. I've been doing this for a long time. And recently I talked about Kaizen. Kaizen. It's this nice, wonderful term that comes from the Japanese, and it talks about improvement. And there are a number of different things that come along with this improvement. It's all about change for the better. And we've heard of continuous process improvement, and we've heard of Kaizen and 5S and a gazillion other terms. And sometimes these terms, you might think of them as fads. Oh, it's a managemental fad. Oh, they've got some new idea on how they can make us work harder. Well, no, actually, they're looking for you to work smarter. I will tell you that there are many bosses out there. There are some. They're going to just tell you to work harder. But there are many bosses out there that want you to work a little bit smarter, to become more efficient. There's a term that I learned from one of my coworkers, and it's called Pragati. Okay, this is an Indian term, Hindi, and it means progress, but it means a different kind of progress or improvement or advancement or growth than we think of it. It's really a small amount of progress. At least that's how it was explained to me. It's this incremental improvement over before. Now, we sit and we think of all of these different tasks we do throughout the day. And you may have a task that you spend an hour a day doing this task. It's an hour-long task. All right? So I'm not even going to look at you to ask you to eliminate that 1 hour task. Your boss will probably be very upset at you if you eliminate that 1 hour task, because an hour a day, if you're eliminating that, well, what does that mean? Well, that means we don't need you anymore because we don't need anybody to do that task. Well, no, it doesn't quite work out that way, because usually your boss wants you to do that task for whatever reason. But what if I could have you eliminate 1 minute out of that task? Just bring that 1 hour task down to 59 minutes. Okay? You would restore, and it's not a lot of time, but let's say you spent a matter of an hour. You sat down. You thought, how do I eliminate 1 minute out of this task? Well, I don't need to do this. I don't need to do that. I don't need to do this, because the task doesn't involve these supplemental things. If you spent 1 hour doing that 1 hour task, and you spend an hour eliminating just 1 minute out of that task, you think it through, you think through the problem, you slow down, you take 1 day and you spend 2 hours doing it. You're going to be ahead of the game. Your payoff on that, your total payoff It will take a matter of months and months to pay off that amount. But even if you spend 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, no, even if you spent 24 hours, we're talking 3 business days. 3 business days, eliminating that 1 minute out of that task. It would pay for itself in 5 years. And businesses look for payoffs in 5 years. Okay, so if you just shave off 1 minute out of that 1 hour task and you spend 1 hour eliminating that, can you spend an hour and eliminate 1 minute out of an hour-long task that you're doing every business day? Yes, you can. And there are a number of other ways that we can look at it. Let's say you can shave off 5 minutes. That's actually 6 full days. If you spent 6 full days at the office and you're just trying to figure this out. You're just working for 6 days to shave off that 5 minutes. It pays for itself in 5 years. Oh, wait, but that's 6 24-hour days. You follow me there? What if you could cut that time in half? Well, and there are ways to do this. There are different bits and pieces throughout the entire world. We find different things where we can shave off time. I worked for a company for a number of years, and one of the things that they had me do was automate how we did our processing of the books. And it was a matter of I managed to restore. We do this on a weekly basis. I managed to restore on a daily basis. That day of work, I managed to restore 6 hours back to my boss. That he did this once a week. I could have worked straight for 2 months, 24 hours a day. And it's still, that's the 5-year break even point. I spent probably every Monday for probably a couple of months automating it. So it totally paid for itself. So look for different ways that you can apply this. Shaving off 5 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever it is. Reduce the amount of time of whatever you're working on. And just call it pragati. That small little micro improvement that just makes your boss's life a little bit easier. This is Benjamin Rockwell. Back to you, Hank.
Thank you, Benjamin. In a recent survey, Americans are balking at buying smart home devices. Smart devices, the cornerstone of the home of the future, can't seem to capture the imagination or open the wallets of a large number of Americans. In 2020, there were 129 million households in the United States. Some 46.7 million broadband households aren't ready to buy a smart home device, according to a survey released this week by Parks Associates, a market research and consulting company specializing in consumer technology products in Addison, Texas. The households gave a number of reasons for staying away from smart home devices. 44%, or 20.5 million households, said the devices are too expensive. 38%, or 17.7 million households, they just can't see the benefits of the gadgets. And 35%, which represents 16.3 million households, are worried about data and privacy problems with the devices. The mere fact that 40% of consumers don't own a smart home device or don't intend to buy one is pretty significant. There is price sensitivity. Similar findings about price sensitivity were discovered by market research firm IDC also. The value of the smart home devices and services are frequently seen as too expensive. The IDC 2020 U.S. Smart Home Survey shows that price, cost, are the overwhelming leading barriers to smart home adoption, with more than 46% of respondents saying that this is the reason for why they don't currently own or use smart home devices or are unlikely to do so in the next 12 months. Not everyone can afford or is willing to pay for a $250 thermostat when they can have a $25 functioning one in their home. While pricing can be discouraging to consumers, more low-cost devices are beginning to reach the market. Consumer security cameras, light bulbs, smart plugs, and video doorbells all offer affordable options. Greater barriers are complexity, availability, and consumer awareness. Then there is the value problem. The value proposition for smart home devices can puzzle some consumers. While many of these products are innovative and there have been early adopter demand, products that have taken off, like thermostats and doorbells for the most part, value perception by consumers isn't where manufacturers think it should be. Brands are getting better at explaining cases for smart home devices. Smart speakers have already led this effort. They can augment security systems by identifying broken glass, smoke alarms, and other audio emergencies. Nevertheless, consumers best understand products like water leak detectors, while the value of devices like smart plugs and smart light switches are less understood by consumers. Consumers aren't alone in being puzzled by the worth of smart devices. Even builders, these are home builders, don't understand the technology, so they don't want to go there. They go with building what they know, and they go with what is cost-effective. Consumers have no problems understanding devices that automate or simplify tasks. Issues arise if the solutions aren't simple to install or customize, or if they require a whole system to deliver simple tasks. Privacy issues remain a concern for devices that can monitor either visually or audibly, like cameras or smart speakers. In terms of reasons why a smart speaker has not been purchased, lack of need ranked the highest while privacy was second. Many security camera brands and now notebook or laptop manufacturers now incorporate a physical shutter to prevent unauthorized viewing. In addition, many camera brands offer SD card storage as an alternative to cloud-based storage. Nevertheless, high-profile cases of camera hacking, like with Ring, have not deterred customers from purchasing security cameras. Likewise, smart speakers adoption has not been impacted following news of individuals reviewing recordings at Apple, Amazon, Google, and others. As what we said, these are big tech companies spying on you. While privacy may be important to consumers, it isn't of paramount importance. Research finds that while privacy is an ongoing and valid concern, it's readily pushed to the back of people's mind in favor of the benefits and conveniences that these devices can provide. Thus, the challenge for smart delivery devices and services providers is to demonstrate clear value and deliver devices at an affordable price which can overcome such privacy concerns in most cases. Over the years, if a service is priced attractively and perceived to be valuable, privacy is not a major concern for a large percentage of consumers. This is not to say that this will stay that way and that consumers may not become more privacy aware or demanding in the future. Other obstacles include ease of use and interoperability, which can also be discouraging consumers to buy smart home devices. Ease of use is the second leading factor that consumers consider as being important when purchasing and setting up internet-connected devices and applications in the home. Smart assistants, however, are helping to overcome this barrier and quickly and dramatically enhancing the accessibility, use, and functionality of smart home devices and simplifying their operation. For customers who want to mix and match smart home devices, getting devices to talk to each other can be quite a hassle. What's important to consumers when purchasing a smart home device, one factor that always rises to the top of the list is they want it to work with the other products that they have in the home. Interoperability is a big issue. Consumers want to make the house smart, but they don't want to have 100 IP addresses pinging the cloud from it, especially when one is on a satellite connection with a data cap and limited bandwidth. Just imagine, if you have 100 items accessing the web, you don't want to have 100 potential security gaps in the network. Plus, a lot of these things don't talk to each other. When you have 15 different manufacturer with different apps to control your house, it's getting a little ridiculous. The smart refrigerators is an extreme example of a smart device looking for a need. If you're ready to purchase a smart refrigerator, here are some points to consider along with a look at the best smart refrigerators on the market. If you're shopping for a new home refrigerator, you probably heard about smart refrigerators. These high-tech wonders are internet compatible. They can send you a message when the fridge door is left open, keep track of what food items you have on hand, and tell you when the milk is past its expiration date. You'll pay more, in some cases a lot more than the cost of a regular refrigerator. But smart refrigerator devotees say that the convenience and smart technology is worth it. And just to let you know, LG and Samsung offer smart refrigerators, and I went through some of their advertisement, and this is what they're touting. There are whistles and bells, by the way, at all range levels that they have, ranging anywhere from slightly over $2,000 to $6,000. One example they give of an advantage for a smart refrigerator: tap the door twice to take a look at what's inside without opening it. The information appears on the screen. Wouldn't it be easier to just open the door? And another one that they tout is, without opening refrigerator door, you can use a companion app to remotely survey your refrigerator's contents. Like I said, just open the door. That, by the way, is what they call a smart appliance. For reference, let's say a $900 dumb refrigerator should last you about 15 years, and a similarly one that is smart will cost you somewhere between $2,000 to $6,000, which is basically just a refrigerator with a built-in tablet. It will only stay smart for as long as a smartphone or tablet is able to interface with it. In the end, you're left with a functioning refrigerator that has no smart functionality if there is no interface and a severely diminished resale value. And doesn't that defeat the purpose of buying a smart refrigerator? By the way, there's one other factor. There's nothing stopping these companies offering the smart refrigerator from shoveling ads, data mining algorithms, and putting crapwares into your smart refrigerator like what they have already done with the smart TV. Think about that. Advantages and disadvantages of a smart home. Today, everyone is leaning towards smart electronics. Many people have already come to know of smart homes, and many have already transformed their homes into smart homes. However, smart homes or automation of your home comes with its own advantages and disadvantages. So if you're thinking of automating your home and making it a smart one, well, here are some food for thought. Some of the major smart home advantages and disadvantages, or pros and cons, that you must take into consideration. Now, before you delve deep into the advantages and disadvantages of smart homes, you need to understand what the smart home is all about. Have a clear idea of home automation will be the first step towards making that decision whether you want to transform your home system at all or not. To put it simply, smart homes are homes that have all the electronic devices and security systems controlled by the owner with a click of a button, either using a mobile phone or some other device. From ventilation to heating, from security to air conditioning, everything would be in your control at a distance of a button. You click a button and you can have the entire control of which side to be working and which would stop working right away. Sometimes the smart homes also involve the usual home appliances like the cooking stove, the refrigerators, as well as the washing machines and dryers. How much control you want to take on these depends on you and your budget. Of course, you can control the security of your home through a click. How does it work? When you install the smart home system in your home, all the electronic devices and appliances that you want to take control over would be connected to a central hub called the gateway. It is this gateway that will now be controlled by a web interface like a mobile phone software or something similar to it. The advantages of smart homes, well, there's plenty to it. It's easy to lock and unlock doors. The security of your home is the most important aspect of any house. With this system, you'll be able to take care of security of your home, even when you're not at home. You can lock the door of your house, and if someone has reached your home and you haven't reached yet, you can open the door for him or her, and your friend or family members can wait inside. It can also save energy. Energy saving is probably the primary concern for every homeowner. With convenient appliances and so many electronic gadgets, the amount of energy consumption is greatly increased. Hence, you would always want to make sure that there is no amount of energy wasted. With the smart home system, you can assure that there is no waste of energy. The machines, devices, and appliances can all be managed and turned off immediately after usage when you have a smart home system. Not just this, controlling the lighting of your house will be a lot easier. Since lighting wastes the maximum amount of energy, you can save a lot with a home system. You can also know about the maintenance and service when your device and appliance needs servicing to maintain its performance, and you'll know this in advance. However, monitoring is not always easy. In that case, you can rely on a smart home system. This will notify you whenever you need to take care of the appliance's devices. There's also the ability to customize for your convenience. It's very convenient and easy, or relatively easy, with a smart home system to customize the appliances and devices in your home to meet your needs. When you want to increase the temperature of your heating system, or you want to decrease the temperature in your air conditioner, or you just want to turn off the water heater, or you want other things to turn on before you reach home. Then there's also the advantage of ease. You can more easily manage all your facilities. You can control and manage all these things without any trouble or difficulty. And finally, when you put it all together, there is an increase in property value. Having your house upgraded to a smart home will increase its property value, and when it comes time to resell your property, you are very likely to get a higher increased return out of your investment. But there are disadvantages. One is cost. The biggest disadvantage of a smart home system is the cost. There are quite a number of companies that provide a smart home system, but all of them are quite expensive. Of course, there is the dependency on the internet. The basic requirement for the smart home system is the internet. Without a good and strong internet connection, you will not be able to take control of this. If there is no internet connection for some reason, there's no other way through which you can access and control your system. And then lastly, if there is a problem with smart home system, you cannot simply call a handyman or someone similar to repair or manage the bug. You will have to depend on professionals. Only company professionals can help you to handle the problem. A professional would be able to take care of the problems with home appliances. In conclusion, with all these pros and cons of smart homes, if you want to install any component parts of a smart system, do your homework. Do you need it? If you do, what is the total cost of operation? Coming up is a milestone event of the electronic computer. February 15, 2021 will be the 75th anniversary of ENIAC. That's ENIAC. It was the first programmable, electronic general-purpose digital computer. It was Turing complete and able to solve a large class of numerical problems through reprogramming. It was built between 1943 and 1945 at the Moore School of the University of Pennsylvania for the war effort by John Mauchly and J. Presper Eckert, but it wasn't delivered to the Army until just after the end of World War II. The Electronic Numerical Integrator and Computer, that's ENIAC, was the first general-purpose electronic digital computer. It was 150 feet wide with 20 banks of flashing lights. It weighed 30 tons and operated on 18,000 vacuum tubes. ENIAC was not a stored program computer. It is better described as a collection of electronic adding machines and other arithmetic units which were originally controlled by a web of large electrical cables. It was programmed by a combination of plugboard wiring and 3 portable function tables. Each function table has 1,200 10-way switches used for entering tables of numbers. One of the peculiarities that distinguished ENIAC from all later computers was the way in which instructions were set up on the machine. It was similar to the plug boards of small punch card machines. But here we had about 40 plug boards, each several feet in size, and a number of wires had to be plugged for each single instruction of a problem. Thousands of them each time a problem was to begin a run, and this took several days to do and many more days to check out. When that was finally accomplished, they would run the problem as long as possible. That is to say, as long as they had input data, before changing over to another program. Typically, changeovers occurred only once every few weeks. Later, NEX plug boards were permanently microprogrammed with a repertoire of 50 to 100 commonly used instructions that could be referenced from a user program, entered as a sequence of instructions into the function table switches. ENIAC was completed February the 15th, 1946. Where is ENIAC today? ENIAC had cost the government $400,000, and the war was designed to help win over. $400,000 in 1946 is equivalent to purchasing power to about $5.33 million today. ENIAC's first program was doing calculations for the construction of a hydrogen bomb. A portion of the machine is now on exhibit at the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C. 5 years later, on June 14, 1951, the world's first commercially produced electronic digital computer, Univac, was released. Univac stood for Universal Automatic Computer, and it was developed by the people who developed ENIAC, J. Presper Eckert and John Mauchly. These giant computers, which use thousands of vacuum tubes for computation, were the forerunners of today's digital computers. John Mauchly was a banquet speaker at the 1977 Trenton Computer Festival. His talk was recorded and has been uploaded onto YouTube. The recording are up in 2 parts. Just do a search on the following words: John Mauchly, M-A-U-C-H-L-Y, space, TCF, space, 1977. There is a planned ENIAC 75th anniversary celebration by Friends of Compuseum. February 15th, 2021 will most likely be a hybrid event with mostly virtual connectivity. For electronic computer geeks and leaders, ENIAC Day is an opportunity to learn more about the innovative activities of this remarkable team of engineers. Compuseum, the newest computer museum, will manage ENIAC Day activity with a new web presence. The website is www.eniacday.org. It will maintain information about this anniversary. ENIAC Day aims to create awareness and drive digital literacy while also improving the teaching of information technology and, more generally, the celebration of computing and the people who made it happen. This website has been established by Compuseum. Their website is thecompuseum, that's COMPUSEUM.org. The sponsors are Compuseum.org and the WorldComputerDay.org organizations. Presenting Marty Winston with his All Hands on Tech, enjoying the cam on the dash where there isn't a crash, about dash cams and all the things they could be doing.
When you watch movies, TV shows where the characters are in cars and you're getting ride-along views from both inside and outside the car, have you thought at all about how they do that? Well, there's a surprising variety of they're really pretty hefty contraptions that can mount a camera next to a car, sometimes in the window, often just outside one of the doors, or sometimes on the roof. In fact, sometimes the car just looks like it's being driven. It's really on the back of a truck. And sometimes it's only the front of the car up there, because that's all you're seeing. But never mind TV and the movies. Aren't there times when you wish you had a ride-along camera crew to capture clips, of something you just saw? Well, guess what? A lot of you already have one. It's your dash cam. Sure, you bought it in case there's a crash or a break-in or somebody doing damage when your car is parked. Are those things happening really very often? Really? Let's look at how to enjoy the cam on your dash when there isn't a crash. That camera. It's always looking at the road. Think about what it's seeing. There are landmarks, caught in a moving perspective as you drive by, and views, panoramic views. They're kind of nice, moving postcard views in the country, in the city, in small towns, and everywhere. Some of those dash cams can let you network together multiple cameras in the car. The first place that people tend to put a second camera is looking backward, mostly to grab the event if somebody rear-ends you, but maybe there's something else back there. Like the load, especially if you're towing. It might be cargo, right? Or bikes or a boat or whatever it is. One of the most common things to happen is that something gets loose because the method that you thought would secure it turned out not to be foolproof. No offense. The idea of getting that on video is that when you can see where it went wrong, you can figure out a better way to do it. One more camera? You've done the road and the load. How about the driver? You. It's not about hours of ego involvement, unless that's what you're looking for. Gee, don't I look great at stoplights? Yeah, right. It's more about those occasional special moments when it can catch you doing something shareable. Of course, that's for when you're driving alone. But you're not always alone, right? Sometimes there are other people riding along, friends or family or co-workers, or visiting alien hitchhikers, or anybody else. Those passengers, your crew, may mostly bore the heck out of you, but there will be times when that turns into fun or performances or cute moments. We've seen improv comedy during long car rides, but it doesn't have to be original. Karaoke can still rock, or a cappella, no matter what the age of the participants. Okay, so maybe you don't want a camera to look inward, or you don't want any more cameras. You don't have to look inward when driving, so think outward. What's out there? There's weather, good and bad. Even mild breezes moving cloud decks make them interesting to watch. When there's rain in the distance, you can see it falling from those clouds. Ordinary skyscapes can be dramatic without anything abrupt happening, but as everybody knows, when it comes to weather, abrupt can certainly happen. You don't have to chase storms per se. Those weather fronts you see as lines on TV weathercasts are also lines in real life. Lines between blue skies and clouds, lines between white clouds and dark clouds, or between high clouds and low clouds. They are very cool and very shareable. Maybe, especially in big cities, maybe there's less to notice when looking up and more to notice when looking down. Potholes, cracking, crumbling bad roads, lots of stuff to complain about. Things that are a lot harder for officials to ignore when there's video to support those complaints. And if not them, well, you could always use those clips to get sympathy from your friends on social media. Oh, poor guy. Even with perfect roads, there's one category that has no shortage of candidates. Idiots! Every road has way too many of them. Know what? They're voluntarily out in public where there's no expectation of privacy. So there's no invasion of privacy if you want to share stupid inaction videos with others. There have been some great photographers with special skills for finding and photographing interesting faces, sometimes in a deliberate photo session, but also often as candid photos. Candids can be fascinating, and every time you pull your car in or out of a place with people around it, there's a chance that your dash cam can grab some fascinating and shareable candids. Try it. It's not just people, it's also places. Places you stop to visit, places you just pass by. Small-town Americana has a wealth of those with intriguing little stores or restaurants or never-updated gas stations or old farms or churches or civic buildings. Think of all the small towns in Vermont or New Hampshire that barely have roads, or the Midwest and Central states where the belly of America is still ticklish, or some of the especially tacky buildings around Las Vegas or Orlando, or closed theme parks. There's always something a lot closer than you thought. And with a dash cam, you don't have to think of it, just drive by. If you're commuting along a regular route that includes roads with Air Patrol speed enforcement, you may be able to spot those planes and helicopters on your dash cam footage and figure out their schedules. It's cheaper than a radar detector, and anyway, Air Patrols don't use radar. Do you ever go camping? Think about this. It's not your permanent address, and it's probably not the permanent address of any of your campground neighbors. What can you expect from them? Many of the better dash cams are good at seeing in low light, so if something happens, it may not be Yogi and Boo Boo. You may see very much more human shapes and faces. Even where you do have a permanent address, things happen in neighborhoods. Some to the car and some not. Sure, vehicular vandalism and theft do happen, and so do home break-ins, fights, assaults, and porch piracy. Many dash cams have a parking mode that can capture that stuff. It gets to be even more significant as an aid to law enforcement when there's civil unrest, riots, looting, or, at the extreme, insurrection. Dash cams can grab faces and car descriptions and license plates and the directions in which people and cars are moving. And there's one more layer here. There's in-camera telemetry. The data that lets companion apps show you maps, report G-forces, and position and direction and time and date and more. Not quite a tricorder, but getting closer. With luck, those more dramatic scenarios will never happen around you. But those opportunities for effortlessly capturing great video absolutely will. And that dash cam is there as your wingman, recording its Wingman Chronicles, your life, your stories, things you've seen that you didn't think you could so directly share with others. Next time, join us for a look at a skill set that got more popular about 100 years ago, improved, evolved, and these days can be a mainstay both in and beyond tech. It's our report on troubleshooting. It will be worth your trouble to listen.
Thank you, Marty. Public service announcements. Computer club meetings in the New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut tri-state region. Most of the computer clubs have begun to schedule their general monthly meetings through teleconferencing. For updated information, visit their website and get the necessary meeting ID for the teleconference meeting. The Brookdale Computer Users Group will have a presentation on a PC user's guide for avoiding the grief of losing your information. Thursday, January the 28th. Meeting time, 6:45 p.m. via Zoom virtual meeting. Their website is bcug.com. The New York Amateur Computer Club has rescheduled the speech recognition presentation for Thursday, February the 11th at 7 p.m. via Zoom virtual meeting, and the website is nyacc.org for further information to get into the meeting. The Amateur Computer Group of New Jersey, their website is acgnj.org. The Princeton PC Users Group, their website is ppcug-nj.apcug.org. The Long Island Macintosh Users Group, their website is limac.org. The Westchester PC Users Group, their website is wpcug.org. Our website is pcradioshow.org. We are heard each Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on prn.fm, streaming on the Internet. Podcasts of this program is available on prn.fm on the internet. If you have any questions for us, just send us an email address to hank@pcradioshow.org. In the meantime, stay in touch and remember to do regular backups. I'm Hank Key, and on behalf of Joe King, Michael Horowitz, Marty Winston, and Benjamin Rockwell, we thank you for listening. Stay safe and healthy until we meet again. Same time, same station next week.